It's Wasabi. If you've been following the channel, you would know that I've created a few montages of me using the Mountaintop. So for the folks that haven't gotten the Mountaintop yet, I've decided to give a few quick tips on getting this pinnacle crucible weapon. I know some folks despise PvP, but the tips I'm going to provide I think will make the requirements a bit more bearable. Before I go on with the guide, if you like the video, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. It really helps the channel out. So the big question to ask is, so why even bother getting the Mountaintop? For a couple reasons. One, it excels in PvE. I think it's a bit ironic that a Crucible Pinnacle weapon is one of the most sought out PvE weapons. And Bungie has already stated that they're not nerfing the grenade launchers, so they should be still viable with the upcoming Shadowkeep DLC. And reason two, it's too much fun in the Crucible to use. It's versatile, with the options to change between spike grenades and sticky grenades. And my biggest regret was vaulting the weapon after I'd gotten it, because I was still playing with other weapons like fusion rifles. So anyway, with the recent update by Bungie in patch 2.5.2.2, they've reduced the requirements significantly. Bungie basically lowered the required number of multi-kills from 200 to 75, the required number of medals from 100 to 25, and the points earned in competitive have been further increased relative to other PvP modes. So right now, it's even easier to complete the Triumph in the Pursuit of Honor to get your hands on the weapon. So really, there is no reason not to get the weapon, except for what I would say is a relatively easy grind. And I'll admit, I was a bit miffed when they lowered the requirements after I'd already acquired the weapon. But I also understand why they made the change. So in the end, it's all good, especially if it gives everyone an opportunity to use such a fantastic weapon. So, on to the tips. Tip number one, weapon choice. What to bring to start the grind. There's actually quite a few options to use. Some will say use a good Malicious Birthright or a Aura-Wings Maw. I'd say if you're going to use the Malicious Birthright, have Ambitious Assassin or Spike Grenades as a perk on it. It's pretty helpful. On the Aura-Wings Maw, I'd recommend using the auto-loading holster perk. It pairs up really well with any weapon that you prefer using. I've used both weapons, but when it comes right down to it, my preference is simply using the exotic grenade launcher, the Fighting Lion, with the catalyst, of course. Nothing beats having a grenade launcher that uses primary ammo. There isn't. It's a lot more forgiving, and you'll have plenty of ammo to use. There is a learning curve with the weapon, but once you've gotten used to it, I think it's the best weapon to use overall. And of course, for the heavy slot, I would use any grenade launcher you like, but a safe bet is using the old play the game grenade launcher. Tip number two, class preference. I would say all the classes are viable, Titan, Hunter, or Warlock, but I would say the easiest class to use is probably the Hunter. With the Hunter, you have the option of going Night Stalker, Top Tree with the tether, and with that, coupled with a good exotic like the 6 Coyote for the double marksman's dodge, it makes it really easy to reload that grenade launcher, which is probably the toughest thing to compensate for, is that slow reload on most of these grenade launchers. For the Titans, I would say make sure you've got the rally barricade, and for the Warlock, of course, using Rift with Lunafaction boots is pretty helpful. In the end, what you want to be able to do is kind of spam grenades while you're in the Crucible. So when it comes to class preference, choose the class that you're most comfortable with. I main a Warlock, so I like using a Rift with the Lunafaction boots. The reason why I say have something to spam grenades is because that's probably the toughest aspect of using a grenade launcher, is compensating the fact most of these are just one-shot grenade launchers. So you have to reload, and there's a bit of a downtime between shots. And being able to spam grenades just increases your chances of getting those multi-kill medals.
And do realize that in a future update, the Rally Barricade and the Rift Luna Faction boot combination will not allow automatic reloading. I'm not saying spamming grenades is the end-all be-all ability or the must-have ability to get this challenge done, but it is helpful, and if you still want to be able to spam grenades, do the steps now. Any progress with the kills and medals will carry over into the next season.
Tip number 3, armor. Make sure your armor is spec'd out for a grenade launcher, 2 grenade launcher scavenger perks, 1 on your gloves and 1 on your class item, and also have a grenade launcher reload perk on your gloves, ideally an enhanced version. Too often I see folks without the proper perks, and it makes a huge difference, I think, in the Crucible when you have the right perks. With the scavenger perk, you'll make sure you'll get plenty of ammo when you pick up those special ammo bricks. And with the reload perk, it's always helpful to have a faster reload on your weapon. Tip number 4. Practice before even trying a grenade launcher in the Crucible. Get familiar with a grenade launcher. Play around with it. Go into patrol areas or strike. I loved using grenade launchers before they became the hipster thing to do, so I would goof around all the time with them. Learn to hip fire with a grenade launcher and get the timing right. That's probably the toughest thing that people have to learn. Learning to hip fire, not necessarily aiming down sights. I rarely aim down sights with a grenade launcher. Once you get the timing down right, you'll find that grenade launchers are pretty versatile and viable in the Crucible. Banking shots to hit opponents while they have no line of sight on you is such a huge advantage.
Tip number 5. Choosing which Crucible mode to play. Quick play versus competitive. The choice depends on your skill and your current rank. Competitive is ideal because of the gains you can potentially make in regards to your progress, but I recommend competitive only if you're relatively low in the competitive rank. The higher ranks, the games can be pretty sweaty. Now, the disadvantage of competitive is the relatively fewer number of opponents in the match, as well as the slower paced game modes like Countdown. I actually did the majority of my progress through quick play. I just prefer the number of opponents, which made it much easier to get those multi-kills. In games of Control, you could predict when people are going to cluster up, and it just made it really easy just to get those multi-kills or calculated trajectory medals. Also important is spend time learning the bottlenecks on the maps, or the spawn points that kind of predict when clusters of opponents will appear. That'll help immensely when going for those multi-kills. And another helpful tip, I would say farm heavy. Now, not necessarily grabbing the heavy ammo per se, but sometimes just camp the heavy ammo and hit opponents hard with the grenade launcher when they approach. Some people just get blinders on when they see the heavy ammo spawn and totally disregard everything else, just making for some easy kills. And just a few thoughts on getting to that Fabled rank. It's possible to get to Fabled within a week if you're determined. Being this late in the season, most of the hardcore PvP players are already beyond the Fabled rank, so it should be a bit easier to move up. The topic itself deserves a video, but if you don't feel comfortable hitting the comp list solo, either get a consistent fire team to play with, or simply wait for next season, where Bungie outlined some pretty significant changes to the PvP ranking system to be a lot more forgiving. There's going to be a solo queue in comp, and glory rank earnings are going to be based on skill performance. So it's going to change the ranking system for the better, and getting to that Fabled rank should be obtainable. Now, I don't pretend to be the world's greatest PvP player, but as a player, I've learned enough of the PvP aspect of Destiny to feel comfortable enough against stacked teams of one-eyed mass, bottom tree titans running around with not forgottens. So what I'm basically saying is that anyone can get better in PvP and feel confident against more seasoned players. It just takes a willingness to learn. Anyway, that's all I have. If you have any questions or suggestions, post in the comments below. And thanks again for watching. Catch you later. Wasabi out.